Thank you, Pam. And of course, I could not miss this opportunity to be with the beautiful Darlene Auger. So I'm going to give you her little bit of a formal introduction and then just gush about how I love her personally. So from a bio that I looked at many of her bios because I didn't do the due diligence and ask her what she might want me to say about her. But this is a beautiful Bush Cree woman, originally from Wabasca in northern Alberta. She now resides in Edmonton, a Waskahigan. Oh, I almost messed up. Darlene comes from a family of 8 and is a mother of 2 beautiful young ladies, Fawn and Keistin. Darlene is an educator, researcher, entrepreneur, holistic practitioner, facilitator, actress, writer, and singer. She is an accomplished facilitator. I've had her do many things for me. She's presented locally, nationally, and abroad. Of the many, many accomplishments, I can only speak to a few, but she has a psychology degree from the University of Alberta and a doctorate from Blue Quills First Nations. She is able to speak, read, and write Roman orthography and syllabics in her Cree language. She has Cree Lullaby CDs, children's books. She does a lot of Wehtamok, which I probably said wrong, therapy, a lot of her beautiful swing teachings. I've never had it formally, but I've had it as part of a demonstration, and there's such love when you're laying there, sung to and nurtured by this beautiful woman. So I personally knew her as a teen, and she was one of the cool crowds doing drama. She was friends with one of my cousins, and so I looked up to her and that generation who actually went on to university. And in those moments, me a little trying to be cool but not accomplishing it pre-teen, just loved her from then. And having her and her generation go and do university and move out in the world and leave Wabasca left a lasting impression. So welcome everybody, and I'm super excited to be here. We all have so much to learn together, and I look forward to the conversation after. So welcome, Dr. Darlene Auger.
Wah, wah. How do I follow that, Trudy?
Oh, that's just small. I could have gone bigger. I kept you humble.
Thank
no
you.
Pressure.
I have a bad cough right now, so I apologize beforehand. Thank you for that introduction. I want to begin with a prayer and a song, and then I have a presentation that I want to bring up just to show you guys some pictures as I blab about all the different projects that I've been involved in. Okay, so if you just want to take a moment to take a deep breath and just center yourself in your heart, in your belly button, in your spirit. Mamo tawi mau. Mamo kawi mau. Namaso magno komag. Tahki omina noa komaganag. Motaski. Egomina ahtakok asegagi. Iwita. Tahki ognanas kompnawa. Omanotski sagaugamiya kawihiya. Utak bisem toap maya. Tamio apahtama ndataskionan. Tamio apahtama. Wayas kanti gawit muhtiah kanot. Amiotaskia. Toitsihtaasuja. Pasaganskintuja mina. Tamamaotaskia. Sawimnan. Kahkio. Tanio ahtamaa. Makutakisakao. Nuapahtamaa. Kawi mina iwapmtuja. Manaskumuna. Sawimina jawasam sananak. Samnanak. Unsapananak. Skutapananak mina uti. Ika. Muistoa. Wapahtaako wapahki. Imiasnig. Rohkaagatawassigu muutaski. Ripi. Maatsia. Manaskumaa kahkio. Nuahkumaaganak. Tugisagaagani sohkamaaguyaahko. Ni maatsia. Ni muhtia. Ni omaskihki tapatsihtaja. Tasagihtuja. Soimen mutanista. Rapintungojan. Ikskujan. Umandataskion. Ni ikskujan. Sahimana. Dataskatin. Epaksimoyan. Gatawanitayan. Epaksimoyan. Utinigan istawasas. Inihiyawi. Ikuhtsa huma. Pakamihtamaan tataskion. Ikuhtsa huma. Iwaya. Apsihtauna pagi. Usihtayan utinigan. Tapatsihtaat vasas. Ikawistawa. Kapintuhtahkawistawa kiway. Miasni gumuta utsi. Kapintuhtahka. Tamgiwihtamasuto. Isahkamon. Tapone. Kayayan. Wahtunun. Itchen. Anaskomon. Ay. I'm going to share one song. This is Ogisagoasquel, Sky Woman. Hey, 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 Okay. I'm gonna share my screen. Hopefully I can bring up my presentation. That is not happening.
What do you need? We have smart Zoom people on here, not me, but other people.
Okay, just a second. I want to make sure I can get out of here without losing you all. Okay. So I have my presentation right now on my desktop. How can I?
So at the bottom, there's a green share screen button. And if you click on it, it will give you options.
Yeah.
And do you see one of your presentations in that option?
No, that's just what I did. So it's not coming. It's not in there.
Okay, smart people, step up.
It says one participant can share at a time. Okay, let me see. Just gonna try again. All I can see, let me see, I'm gonna try this.
That should work now, Doreen.
Okay, just a second. I wonder if I need to go to, okay, wait. It should work now. Share screen.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see myself in there.
There we go.
Okay. But it's not in there. Okay, just a second. I'm gonna open it up. Sorry, I'm gonna stop sharing. And I'm just gonna bring it forward. I don't want to bring it into my tab, so let's see if I can go in here. So I I thought a lot about what, what it is that I wanted to share with you today, and I thought it was really important just to let you know, just to look at my language learning as a journey in my life, because it's been my lifetime work. I've been speaking Cree since I was a child, and this is me when I was a baby in Wabasca with my two older sisters. And this was the log cabin that I grew up, and we only spoke Cree at home. So I'm Bush Cree, or Woodland Cree, and I speak Y dialect. And I didn't know this, but I guess when I was growing up, we also spoke Méchif. And I didn't realize that until much later in my life, that we were speaking these two languages. So we spoke the Bush Cree, Sagao Nihio, Nihiawiwin, Egwa, the Méchif language. So I didn't actually speak English until I was about 9. And I remember that because I remember going to my mom, and I just remember the moment so clearly, and I'm not sure why it was such a significant moment for me, I guess. But I went to my mom and I said to her, "Mom, I'm never going to speak to you in Cree again." And remember, she looked at me like I was like a strange alien, and she didn't say anything. She just looked at me and smiled. And I said, "Because I'm learning this English." And I said, "And I just want to learn to speak English. So I'm going to talk to you in English from now on," I said to her. She just kind of laughed and chuckled, and she didn't say, anything to me about it. But I think that's why the moment was so significant for me, because I just made a great big deal out of learning this new language and wanting to stay in that language rather than, speaking my own language. Of course, I didn't realize it at the time, how what a colonized statement that was. And how I've come to realize that our language, was already at that time starting to disappear. And like in my community, there's probably very few people after my generation who speak the language. I know when you go further north, you still can hear the children speaking the language. But in my community, there's very few younger people than me. Probably my generation is the last like fluent speakers. So I just feel so absolutely fortunate that I grew up in this home that just spoke the language. This is my aunt and uncle, Julie and Julian Auger, and they gifted me with so much when I was growing up. They lived right next door to us, and they were both very, very, very proud Cree people, even though in the midst of, being colonized and having the church not so far from our traditional lands and the Indian residential school built there. Both my aunt and uncle that you see here were very proud of our culture and our heritage. And they did not allow colonization and the opening of schools and churches within our community to take away from their cultural practices and maintaining the language. My aunt Julie, when I was coming into my teen years, taught me how to write in syllabics. And so when I left the community when I was 18, 19, 20, she and I would write to each other in syllabics, and that's how I was introduced to Atzako Peheganag. And when you look at this word, Atzako Peheganag is our term for the our writing system, the syllabics, and it means spirit markers. And so, and also the word is speaking about an animate being. And so they're not just markings, they're spirits, they're character, like they're actual spiritual characters. And I was really, really fortunate also in my life that I was asked by a couple of prominent elders, Jerry Saddleback and Eric Tutusis, to carry the origin of the syllabic story. So they shared it with me, and then they offered tobacco to me to hold the story. And I didn't actually know what it meant for me to hold the story. So I just kind of kept it to myself. You know, in my mind, I would go over the story in my own mind so that I would remember it. And I finally shared it a few years ago because on another occasion I had asked an elder, you know, what does this mean for me to hold this story? And what they told me was that I had to share it, that holding the story means to be the keeper so that it's never forgotten. So after that, I started to share it more, but it's a very, very, very long story. It's actually a 3-day story, according to Eric Tutusis and Jerry Saddleback, who first shared it with me. And I was only given the 3-hour version. So if you can imagine, you know, in the winter months, we would be sitting with our elders and, you know, in the teepee around the fire, listening to these stories that just went on and on and on for days. And so, yeah, I just feel very fortunate that I had, you know, such strong mentors and parents and relatives in my surroundings when I was growing up. When I left the community and I came to the University of Alberta, I fell into the arms of Emily Hunter, the late Emily Hunter. And I say that because she became my solace when I was here. I had major culture shock when I moved to the city from the bush. And I kept wanting to go home, and Emily would encourage me to stay, and she would speak Cree to me, and she, just kind of took me under her wing, and I just loved her. And she brought me into her home and, introduced me to her family, and her daughter Shirley and I are still very good friends. And so it's, again, I just felt so fortunate to have Emily as one of my teachers when I started formal language instruction. And this is when I realized that I spoke these two languages, the Michif and the Cree. So one of the things that Emily had us do in 352, Native Studies 352, was to create a project where we would do, it would be a translation piece. So we had to go out and read an article or a poem or a song or anything really. Even the clock. I remember she said, even if you can just take the clock and translate the clock into Cree. And so I went off, and because I love to sing, I took a song, and I remember the very first time that I heard this song. It's called Grandpa by the Judds. And when I first heard the Judds singing it in the 80s, in the early 80s, I was so taken by this song. And I remember thinking, wow, this song should have been done in Cree. Like, it should have been a Cree song. Just because of the words and what they say and the lyrics. And so I took that song and I translated it into Cree. And then I handed it in as my project. And I got a good grade. But the thing about that is that I had then shared it with one of my sisters back home. And it was just like on a little cassette tape, And I left that with my sister, and lo and behold, without my knowledge, she took that cassette tape and she went and gave it to the CFWE radio station here in Edmonton. And suddenly I'm singing on the radio, and somebody calls me and says, Darlene, you're on the radio. I'm like, what? What do you mean I'm on the radio? And so they turn it up on there, and I'm on the phone, and I could hear myself singing this song in Cree. And I think it just became so popular. It still plays to this day. Like, to this day, 35 years later, you can still request the song on CFWE, and they will still play it. And it baffles me, but at the same time, I recognize how important our language is to our people, and how integral it is to who we are and how we are. And I remember going home to a community event, and the organizers had asked me to sing this song. So I went up to the stage and I sang the song, and I could see all my people there, all my community. And I was just kind of singing. I was looking at the faces in the crowd, and I remember seeing my uncle, Sam G, we called him. And I looked at his face, and while I was singing, and I could see tears coming down his cheeks. And he just held his heart while he was listening to me. And I went down afterwards and I went to talk to him and I went to give him a hug, and he said to me that it was the first time in his life that he really understood a song. And I just thought, oh my God, you know, like it just blew me away. Like for him, because he's, you know, Cree, fluent Cree, first language speaker, and English being his second language, that he never fully understood the story of a song before, you know, and that just, it did something to me. It did something to my spirit. And I thought, I need to never forget how lucky I am, how fortunate I am that I can still speak my language and that I can take the language and I can sing in the language, and how healing that is for people, especially people who are losing their language now or who've lost their language and are just relearning the language. It's so much more important to them. And so I had also done some work with Emily. Her and I were invited by Access TV, which I don't think exists anymore. And they asked Emily and I to come in and translate and do a Cree voiceover for these 4 little Wehtamok legends. So that was kind of my first taste of, you know, being paid, I guess, you know, for doing translation work or any kind of language work. And it wasn't so much that, you know, that I was, the fact that I was paid, that was phenomenal to me. It was just phenomenal that, you know, that we were recording our language, that we were putting it away for future, for our children, you know, for our grandchildren. And so again, that really struck me, and I continued from there to do more work in the language. I guess you could say it really those 2 pieces of work really captured my spirit. Trudy will remember this. So in my teen years, I was also involved in theater, and here beside me is Sylvia Cardinal, which is Trudy's cousin that she spoke about earlier. And this is myself standing beside her, my skinny self. Woohoo! I wish I could be that skinny again. And but Wehtamok theater, Wehtamok means look this way or look over here, you know. And what we were doing here was we were utilizing our language and our culture in drama, in theater, to give young people a voice, through which, you know, we could share our stories and we could create social change within our communities. Because right around this time, we were having a lot of suicides. So the group of us that you see here, we had lost some of our friends that, you know, possibly could have been standing here with us in this photo. And so there was a theater company out of Edmonton called Catalyst Theater, who was asked to come to Wabasca and create a summer theater project for youth. to give us that much needed voice that we needed, and to give us the attention that we needed. We needed our communities to look at us and to see us and to hear us. And so we called our theater company Wehtamok Theater. And we created stories, and we put those stories on stage for our community to see. And we utilized language in our stories. And then I went on to do more translation work, a lot of translation work over my lifetime, but I just wanted to point out a few here. Ted Blodgett I guess I should have maybe dated some of these, but I think it was in the late 2000s, he was the Edmonton Poet Laureate. And he created a book called A Small Park. And in his book, he had some poetry that he asked me to transcribe into Cree and into syllabics. And then he had the syllabics of those poems inscribed on the posts at the Lewis McKinley Park here in Edmonton. And so you can walk down that park, and those black posts that you see, you'll see the syllabics inscribed into those posts. And then I was invited to a Leonard Cohen Poetry Festival to do a translation piece there for a song that one of the artists was singing, a Leonard Cohen song. And so I translated that song, and somehow, and I'm not sure exactly how this happened, but Leonard Cohen had received the copy, I guess, at some point of this translation of his song that I had done. And then I was given back the message, over several people, that he was very touched that his song was translated in syllabics. He was very touched to see this, even though he said his work had been translated in something like 42 languages around the world or something. He said it was the first time that it had been done in an Indigenous language. And so he was very, very proud of that. And I feel really proud of that. And then more recently, I translated a song for Tom Jackson. It was really funny, actually, because I don't even know how Tom Jackson got my phone number, but he called me, and I happened to be in Hawaii at the time. I was taking a much needed break and, laying on the beach and getting the sun rays, and Tom Jackson calls me. I'm like, what? And oh, excuse me. And I had to tease him. I said, Tom, as if I even knew him, I said, Tom, you're cutting into my beach time here. I said, you owe me big time. He laughed, so that was good. Got a laugh out of him. Anyways, he had me translate that piece, and I should have put it up here to play for you. It was a very short little piece, but it was a song that he wrote for the national anthem for the Indigenous Games. I think that was in 2018. And now I can't even see my slide here. I can't see my slide. I don't know how I'm going to do this. How do I do that? Trudy, tell me what's beside Tom Jackson.
There is Asani songs.
Ah,
Did I say
yeah.
that right? Asani.
Yeah. So, and Cheryl will know this because Cheryl's online too. And so I had done a bit of translation work for Asani in a few of their songs, which I'm very, very proud of too. I always tell Cheryl that I'm so honored to be, you know, beside her in music. I just think, oh my God, I'm doing stuff for Cheryl and Asani. And so it's just always, I'm very proud of that work that I do with them. And then very, very recently, like just last month, I was up in Quebec doing an interview with Thompson Highway. And that was really interesting because Thompson Highway was to be receiving an award. And the National Film Board usually creates these 5-minute films on people who are receiving these great awards. And Thompson Highway asked or told the film board, National Film Board, that he wanted his interview to be done all in Cree. And so the National Film Board, never having done this before, needed a Cree speaker to, go along with the film crew. So I was asked to go along. I was so happy. Oh my God, I was excited. I was like, starstruck because Thompson Highway is one of my favorite playwrights, and I've performed in several of his plays. So I was so excited to go. And I had a lot of fun with Thompson Highway. He's a blast. And we spoke in Cree the whole time I was there. He speaks, I've never heard anybody do this, but he switches dialects right in the middle of his sentence. Like he's talking to me in N dialect, and then suddenly he switched to an L dialect, and I just like have to really stay focused on him because he also speaks very fast. And so it's quite the challenge, but beautiful challenge. I loved it. And again, this just happened a couple of years ago, and even into last year, we just finished this project, Fort Edmonton Park. And there's a place that they've built there called the Indigenous People's Experience. And I, for that, wrote a prayer and in Cree, and I've also sung a song in Cree. And so you can hear that as part of the audio when you walk through the park there. Yeah, and just numerous other contracts. Here I've got a list of some more work that I've done. In 2017, I did a Cree Woman in Lullaby CD. And this was actually a community research project that was funded by NEAR and at the U of A. And what I really wanted to do was bring women together who could go into their family histories and gather their families' traditional lullabies. And I wanted us to record those lullabies so that we could keep them for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren into the future, so that they are not forgotten. And so we did manage to bring some old lullabies from the past, but we also created some new ones. And again, Cheryl was a part of this project with me, which I was very, very grateful for. And in fact, I think when I look at the numbers, and I don't know if Cheryl has been able to do this, but when I look at the number of times, like So it shows you like how many times your album is played and which songs are played more. Cheryl's song is played the most on that CD. Yeah. So she made us famous there. And then I did an O Canada in Cree CD, which is just a single. And I did eventually record the Cree grandpa onto CD because so many people were asking for it. So I just made a bunch of copies and I just give them away. And then most recently, I partnered with Grand MacEwan University and we did a Cree meditation album. And this is free online. You can grab it from Apple or Spotify, YouTube Music, and it's called Inatawem Goya, Inatawastem Goyak. Oh, I forgot an S in there. And it means that his light or her light, the light heals us. And so it's all in Cree. I mean, there is some English, a bit of English in there throughout, but it's Cree songs done by Priscilla and Priscilla and, oh my gosh, Leo and Priscilla McGilvery, and Jada Gadwa and Joel Wood were our singers, and then flute by Joel, and then there's some Cree prayer by Mariel Lee and myself, and I do a movement meditation piece that I wrote called 7 Directions Prayer. And so it's all in there, and there's other small 1 minute and 5 minute meditations in there. We really wanted this to be accessible to students, especially in the time of stress and COVID. We wanted to give them something that they can have at home and at their disposal. And then again, in live theater performances, I was part of a big production called Ancestors and Elders that played at the Jubilee Auditorium. And also we created a documentary on it, and I was the language and cultural coach for that production. And also another production by Akvik Theatre. We went to Stratford, which is really neat. And we went there and we workshopped her play, Renalta's play, and called Bowagan. And so there was a lot of Cree in this play. She wrote a lot of Cree into it, even though she's not Cree. And I was helping her, sitting with her through that piece, developing those pieces. And then I was hired by Blue Quills University to develop a Cree psychology degree program. So that was a 4-year Indigenous psychology program. And so I worked with a group of Cree elders from the area, and we developed a lexicon of psychological terms in Cree. And through the exploration of those terms and the meanings of those terms, we created courses. So myself and Ida Moore, who graduated together from the doctorate program at Blue Quills, developed that course together, or that program together. And which is now being taught at Blue Quills. I think it's been taught now for 2 or 3 years already. So you can get a degree in Indigenous psych there. And then 2 traditional Cree stories for Alberta Museum in Edmonton. Again, that was Cree translation work. Stories were told by Billy Joe Levelcan, beautiful storyteller. If you ever have an opportunity to sit with him, he's amazing to listen to. His Cree is just beautiful and fluid, and he's actually a master linguist, a Cree master linguist. So, hey, Pam, there's another person for you. So, yeah, so I translated his, interestingly enough, you know, I was asked to come translate some of his pieces. Okay, so moving on here. Yeah, I wanted to do when I finished my doctorate, I did my doctorate again at, like I said, at Blue Quills in Indigenous life knowledge, which falls under the education program. And I wanted to present my doctorate all in Cree. Challenged myself. And so I presented it to a group of elders and people at a Cree immersion camp that was taking place at Martin Lakes in Alberta, which is kind of the area where I'm from. So a lot of the people that were in the audience were members of my own community. So it was nerve-wracking, but it was good. It was really good. It was a really good exercise for me because, you know, the longer that I live away from home, the more I lose my language. And so it's really important to me to keep it up, you know, to keep speaking it and to keep doing work in the language. So, yeah. And as part of my doctorate, I also developed a Cree cultural kit, which includes a little teepee, a swing, a moss bag, a baby in a moss bag, and 4 books that I wrote in Cree, and a CD of Cree lullabies, and also an audio. There's an audio also that comes with it, where I'm telling the story in Cree, or the stories. And I was also an instructor for a Cree drama course through the Wehtamok program at the University of Saskatchewan, where I was actually called a fellow. I don't understand all these university terms, you know, but yeah, I was a research fellow, and so I got to go in and teach this drama program in the language at the University of Saskatchewan over a spring and summer and fall, I think it was. So that was really awesome. Had a lot of fun. And then I developed also a course for Nietzsche Institute. Nietzsche Institute wanted to develop a course for their series, their, you know, addictions learning series or healing series. So healing through the language was what we called that course. And it was through this course that I met Jerry Saddleback and Eric Tatusis, who at the time had given me that tobacco to hold that story. So that story is part of that curriculum. And here's a picture of me doing the coaching, language coaching for Powaggan. So this is the group of actors that played in the show. And I think I see somebody here that is in the group, that's in our group today. Is that you, Gil? Is that your ear right there? Yeah, this is Barry Balinsky, and so he was the co-director along with Renalta. And I can't see if Renalta's in the picture, but yeah, a lot of fun. I love doing this kind of work, particularly when I can be there with the people in person. This was a singing performance put on by Edmonton Opera, and they wanted, you know, Indigenous partnership, you know, flowing along with the reconciliation pieces of work that, you know, a lot of us have been involved in since TRC. And so the, I didn't sing with the opera, but the opera was, you know, part of this event. So I was singing here in Cree. I was singing a lullaby, I believe. Yeah. And that's a cover of the CD that I spoke about, Cree Women and Lullaby. Me, 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 me. Baby says, a petite baby says, a petite me, 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 me. Baby says, was so. Baby says, was so. Me, 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 me. Baby says, where so. Baby says, where so. Me, 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 me. Baby says, ne paso. Baby says, ne paso. Me, 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 me. Baby says, me important. Baby says, me important. Me, 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 me. So this was my doctorate team. And this here is Ida Moore. Ida and I developed the Indigenous psych program together because we were both we both had undergrad and graduate degrees in psychology. And here's Lana Whiskey Jack, the beautiful Lana Whiskey Jack, which is another person that Pam should get on this. And then I have Kevin Lewis in here too. And what else do I see in here? Lillian Gadwa, you can see Lillian over there. Yeah, so this lady here is from northern Manitoba. She lived in the States and she traveled up to come to school with us. And she was a phenomenal storyteller, and she created stories on hides, like the old traditional way of telling stories, you know, with pictographs. And that's how she did her dissertation presentation. It was amazing. Vivian, her name is. Cree, she's Cree from Opaskoyak. And there's a cover of the 4 little books I spoke about that I did as part of my doctorate work. And there's a little snippet of the Cree meditation audio. I'll just play just a little few seconds. Oh, I don't think it's gonna let me. No. No, it's not gonna let me. Sorry about that. And then, of course, I believe I'm most known for the work I do in the healing swing, which was a vision that came to me in ceremony, like a spiritual vision where I was spoken to by a grandmother in Cree language. And she said to me, she said, people need to be swung. And so over the last 20 some years, I've been swinging people in this large swing. And for healing, people receive healing in there. I am merely a conduit of the healing energy that happens. I believe the healing comes from the grandmothers directly, and they know what people need, and I'm just there creating the sacred space and holding that sacred space. And the grandmothers do that beautiful work of healing our people. So